thank you for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
I am originally from England and I have lived in Gili Trawangan in Indonesia for the last 7 years. I've been obsessed with turtles and dolphins for most of my life, so after I did lots of turtle conservation in Malaysia, then I moved down here and found my joy with diving and the underwater world.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your diving story?
So my diving story, I've been on Gili Trawangan for the last 7 years. I work here as a diving instructor and I also work for the Gili Eco Trust, an environmental charity on the island.
What was your first experience diving?
My first experience, I was lucky enough to go diving when I was 12 years old. My first holiday that was slightly warmer than Wales, and I went for a Discover scuba dive and realised that I would rather be underwater than on the land.
Nice. And what is diving for you in the moment?
Diving for me at the moment, I am teaching some conservation courses and we are trying to restore the coral reefs around Gili Islands.
Why would you recommend anyone to start diving?
I would recommend anybody to start diving if you have a little feeling for adventure or trying something new, and also to just do something that you've never tried before.
Can you share any stories that stand out from your diving experience?
I have so many fun stories underwater. I used to like diving with my favourite dive buddy Izzy when I first came to the island, and whenever we were on our safety stops, if we weren't playing a game of rock, paper, scissors, we would try to take out our regulator and scream at each other what we would like for lunch after the dive. Always about food. One moment that really stood out for me is in the Gillies we don't really ever get mantas, and I was lucky enough to take my mum and dad diving, and even at about 14 meters on our last day of our open water course, my mum managed to see a manta fly over her head. So that for me was magical because she didn't understand quite the reason why I'm so obsessed with underwater, and now she's just as obsessed.
That's awesome. Any piece of advice you want to give to people who plan their first diving vacation?
Planning a diving vacation, I would say research as much as you can, but also ask as many people as possible, just because so many people have amazing diving experiences, different places they've been or different types of diving, and just asking my dive buddies where is the next location for me to go is definitely the way that I've travelled around the world diving.
Which is your favorite destination for diving?
I'd say, other than the Gili Islands where I have landed myself, I really like diving in Komodo just because the diving is beautiful and the wildlife is massive, and the currents are really fun to dive in.
How do you imagine the perfect week of diving?
My perfect week of diving would be, well, any week in diving is perfect, but I would love to be floating on a liveaboard, to be able to have really crystal clear waters that are warm. If I was lucky enough to see some mantas or be swimming around a massive school of sharks, that would be perfect.
Tell us a little bit more about your passions around diving.
So my passion in diving is conservation, to protect and conserve as much as we can, and then also to educate and inspire as many people as possible to try diving, but then also to find their love underwater and in the way to protect it for the future generations.
And how do you actually do that? What do you do in the moment in order to actually realize this dream of yours?
So at the moment we are, I like to try to inspire children. We're teaching in the local schools about the ocean wildlife. We show them some very small documentaries, taking them snorkeling so that they can see Nemo in real life after they've watched it on a computer screen. But also I really like taking people to do reef check surveys and actually conducting research underwater to show the health of the reefs, whether the health is getting better, and if it's not, then how we can start to change it so that we can continue to have the same reefs that we've got today.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how you do the reef checks? How a normal day would actually go when you do a reef check?
Reef Check is one of the most fun courses that I like to teach because we spend a little bit of time in the classroom, so learning about what different corals are, how you can identify hard corals and soft corals, and then it's really cool because we're actually taking action underwater. So we're laying out long transect lines along super healthy reefs and not so healthy reefs, and then assessing the health across time. So we've been doing it for the last 10 years on the island. So then we can actually see how the coral reefs are changing. If they're getting healthier, then why are they getting healthier? And we need to protect it. And if they are declining in health, then what we can do to protect it and restore it. After 4 years of working full-time as a dive instructor, we started to see so much marine pollution, as well as all the beautiful coral reefs and stuff that are getting damaged by it. So we've been conducting weekly beach cleans on Gili T for the last 7 years. And since doing it, then we're starting to see more turtles coming to our island for nesting. So then now we're trying to start a turtle conservation program to protect the eggs, to get more turtles into the ocean. We're also really happy now on the Gillies. We're working with Ocean Quest, which is a fantastic man from Malaysia who's been propagating corals since the 80s. So we've basically taken on the ground gardening, taking it underwater, and we've got some underwater coral nurseries where we're trying to propagate corals that were broken in a storm a few weeks ago, and we put them in a nursery until they grow big and strong, and then after 1 year or 2 years, then we can move it back out to a reef that is in a bit of distress.
Any message you would like to leave to everybody who is wondering whether to start diving or not?
I would say if you're thinking about starting diving, then just take the plunge, blow as many bubbles as possible, and you're only going to see more things, you're going to meet new people, and you're just going to have the best time ever. Hopefully the same as I did.